What's up, you guys? Welcome back to Second Take. It's Vishwa here, and today we're back with another video on a player who was very hyped up coming into the NBA and had a hot start but then fell off due to many reasons, and that guy is Jabari Parker, the forward of the Sacramento Kings. I haven't made videos like this in the past with other guys like Dennis Smith Jr., Andrew Wiggins, and Mo Bamba, and Parker's very similar to these guys in terms of how his career has trended. Jabari Parker was very hyped up in the 2014 draft, taken with the second overall pick, but is currently barely even seeing the floor for the Sacramento Kings. Many fans have completely forgotten about this guy, and he is at a very low state in the league right now. But today I'm going to be discussing why Jabari Parker, who originally got off to a hot start in the league and was seen as one of the best college prospects, is barely even playing right now, and how he can still be used of any team or not. I'll also be answering the question if Jabari Parker is a bust or not. So without delay, please make sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel, especially if you're a fan of the NBA. And with that being said, let's get straight into the video. Coming out of high school, Jabari Parker was an absolute stud in Simeon, a school in Chicago, along with current NBA player Kendrick Nunn. He would end up committing to Duke as a 5-star recruit, and he was already dubbed as one of the best players in the 2014 NBA draft class. Upon joining the Blue Devils, this Duke team would go on to have an outstanding 26-9 record. Parker was the team's best player, and he was surrounded by good talent that is currently in the NBA like Rodney Hood, Quinn Cook, and Semi Ojeleye, especially coached by the great Coach K. From a stats standpoint, Jabari Parker averaged an outstanding 19 points, 9 rebounds, with 3 of them being offensive, an assist, a block, and a steal, on 47% field goal percentage, and a mediocre 35% from 3. According to a scouting report on SB Nation, Jabari Parker was a big 6'8", 240-pound combo forward, meaning that he played both the small and power forward positions. But unlike what his size would suggest, Parker's skill level was extremely high as he handled the ball like a guard, uses handles to create separation, uses speed as an advantage when guarded by slower power forwards, and his strength to bully thinner and smaller players on the drive or in the post. He could also finish with either hand on either side through traffic, and had a nice shooting stroke as he knocked down a reasonable 36% of his threes. Finally, he was a fast break transition nightmare for opponents as he could be dashing up the court in full speed after a defensive rebound for a bucket, and according to Bleacher Nation, he was also a willing passer who brought out a point forward potential. However, his only question marks were his lack of set position as he fluctuated positions throughout his Duke tenure. He normally plays the 4, but Duke did try him at the center position, which was a failure, and he also played the 3 as well. His other 2 weaknesses were his poor shot selection and a terrible defense that could improve if well coached. He was also reportedly compared to star Carmelo Anthony, according to NBA Draft Network, due to his overall skill at a huge size. His superstar potential led him to being selected second in the 2014 NBA draft, just behind Andrew Wiggins by the Milwaukee Bucks. Now we'll get into how his NBA career has gone. During his tenure with the Milwaukee Bucks, his rookie season saw him put up 12 points and 5 rebounds, shooting 49% from the field. Unfortunately, throughout his first 3 seasons, Parker would deal with terrible injuries, tearing his ACL twice. However, in the games he did play, he did flourish pretty well as a small forward next to Brandon Knight at the 1, Chris Middleton at the 2, Giannis at the 4, and John Henson at the 5. Brandon Knight would then be replaced by Malcolm Brogdon a couple seasons later. Unfortunately, as Jabari Parker would finally start to break out in the 2016-17 season, putting up 20 points, 6 boards, shooting 49% from the field and 37% from 3, he would end up tearing his ACLs 51 games in. I want to specifically emphasize his first few years in Milwaukee because during this time, many perceived him as a future superstar and once again the next Melo, but there are many reasons why the Bucks did not attempt to re-sign him in 2018 free agency. According to SB Nation, the Bucks were a mediocre team, and even with a healthy Parker and his ACL tears also made matters so much worse. Once Chris Middleton returned from an injury, a Parker-less Bucks team proceeded to go on a 20-11 stretch to make the playoffs. When Parker returned the next year, not only would he returned not the same, but he was not able to fit in with MVP Giannis, Chris Middleton, and Malcolm Brogdon, which thus led to the Bucks giving up on him. This is extremely unfortunate for the Bucks as they passed up on big man Joel Embiid. Honestly, this is a topic for another video, but how good would the Bucks have been with a Giannis Embiid front court if the Bucks took Embiid rather than Jabari Parker? As for the guy they chose, Parker would excel very well in occasions offensively, but his defense was a liability for the team, and this aspect about him is what I'll talk about in brief. Anyway, during the 2018 free agency, Parker was signed with the Chicago Bulls on a 2-year $40 million deal, with the second year being a team option. In his stint with the Chicago Bulls is where Jabari Parker would really hit a low point following this in his career due to the way he performed. It was a puzzling signing that many questioned about the Bulls management for making. Parker was coming off 2 ACL tears and only averaged 12 points a game on his final year, and they paid him as much as $20 million a year, and even though they had a promising second year power forward Lauri Markkanen. What I really don't understand is why people expected Parker to start at the 3 for the Bulls, as even though he played the 3 for a decent amount of time with the Bucks, he was more of a negative than positive impact on the team, especially given that he was not a good 3-point shooter and a liability defensively. Parker would average 14 points, 6 rebounds, and 2 assists on a decent 47% shooting. However, as we know, the two biggest problems about his game were easily his mediocre 32% 3-point shooting clip and his shot selection, and his horrific defense, which at times made him unplayable. According to ESPN stats, Parker was ranked 61st among power forwards with a 0.2 defensive plus minus and had a below average 112.7 defensive rating for 100 possessions. Jabari Parker could not be played at the 3 because he's simply too slow to guard the quicker wings of today's game and is also undersized to guard the 4. But the even worse part about his defense was that he showed absolutely zero effort at all, as he would not close out on open shooters, rotate and switch, get back on defense in general after a missed or made shot, and sometimes he just stays stationary, not even guarding anybody. Not only that, but soon enough, Parker would even make it crystal clear that he doesn't want to play defense, and in an interview, Parker stated, "I stick to my strengths. I look at everybody in this league. They don't pay players to play defense." He then stated to a different question, "They pay players to score the ball, and I would hope someone scores the ball on me if they pay them that much." Oh wow, this statement here makes him a flat-out disgrace and tarnishes his overall reputation as a professional athlete. Basically, ignoring a whole half of the sport itself doesn't bode very well for Parker, and teams definitely do not like players like that, especially as the common saying goes, defense wins championships. Parker even fell out of the Bulls' rotation because of his terrible play, specifically defensively. His overall liabilities resulted in him not even lasting a full season with the Bulls, as they trade him along with Bobby Portis and a second-round pick to the Washington Wizards for Otto Porter Jr. With the Washington Wizards, Parker would average 15 points and 7 boards on 52% shooting, with identical stats the following year with the Atlanta Hawks on a cheaper $6 million per year deal, as there is simply no way the Wizards would pay him $20 million for another year. As it may look like Parker is having a good stretch, it's important to note that the teams he was on, both the Washington Wizards and the Hawks, were both bottom-tier teams that usually take a fancy to give opportunity for mediocre players to stand out. The Hawks would then trade him to the Kings, as they made the easy decision that, especially with John Collins, Parker was not a part of their future plans, and with the Sacramento Kings is where Jabari Parker has hit an all-time low in his career. He opted into a $6 million deal contract to remain with the Kings for another year. There's nothing really to note down stats-wise for him, as he's only appeared in 2 games the whole entire season, putting up 2 points versus the Bulls and 6 against the Bucks, and even in these 2 games against the Bulls saw him register 9 minutes only because of front court injuries the Kings had with both Richaun Holmes and Harrison Barnes, while his minutes against the Bucks were off garbage time. Parker was in COVID health and safety protocols leading up to January 11th, but since then, these 2 games are the only ones he's played. Coach Luke Walton has also made it clear that he won't give Parker any playing time, as even in a blowout situation, Parker didn't even see action. It's also clear that if it were up to the Kings, they would obviously not keep Parker for a team option this season, and he's currently in the 3rd string of the Kings front court rotation behind Richaun Holmes, Marvin Bagley, Nemanja Bjelica, Hassan Whiteside, and even Harrison Barnes, who plays the 4 at times. With this situation at hand, it's obvious that Jabari Parker won't even see the floor at all. Unfortunately, unlike previous players I've covered in the past, it seems like Parker's time in the NBA momentarily is running out of time, and he may have to take his talents overseas next season, similar to a guy like Michael Beasley. I mean, he can't really contribute to a contending team given that he isn't even earning minutes on a non-playoff team and doesn't play defense at all. The only way he may be able to rebound his career is by going to a bottom-tier team. The 2 best options I got are the Detroit Pistons and the Cleveland Cavaliers, who he can actually be a good fit. Cavs all have a lot of young talent, but getting buckets is what Parker does best, and the Cavs happen to be one of the league's worst offensive teams, so Parker can pretty much contribute in that aspect. The Pistons, on the other hand, have given life to many players like Jeremy Grant, who's having a career year, and Josh Jackson and Dennis Smith Jr., guys seemed like busts prior to coming to Detroit. Maybe Parker would have a similar rebound to these guys, but I highly doubt any team will offer him a contract next season due to how bad he is defensively and his injury history as well. And that's going to cap it off for today's video. I personally feel really bad for Jabari Parker as he had superstar potential and was supposedly the next Carmelo Anthony, picked second in a talented draft class. Unfortunately, due to his early injuries and his lack of effort, specifically defensively, including his infamous quote on defense I stated earlier, many teams don't have a liking toward him. If he truly wants a roster spot, he needs to be doing whatever the team asks of him and put in the work. Hopefully he can ball out overseas or wherever he goes and develop a better reputation as an athlete in the league. To answer the question, in my opinion, Jabari Parker may seem like a bust right now, but he does have the opportunity to change that label as he's still only 25 years old. Let us know in the comments if Jabari Parker is a bust or not, and if there's any chance of a career revival. Also, please feel free to give any feedback or further ideas on content you'd like to see. And on that note, smash that like button if you enjoyed this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you guys for watching and peace.